What if the biggest variable in your 3 o'clock salary negotiation today has absolutely nothing to do with your quarterly performance metrics?
Right.
And, everything to do with a 3,000-year-old psychological archetype that's mapped precisely to this exact Thursday.
Which sounds crazy, I know.
It sounds totally crazy. But today, we're not looking at your career trajectory through the lens of a standard Harvard Business Review case study. We are using something far older, and I mean, arguably, far more revealing.
Yeah, much more revealing.
Because it is Thursday, June 5th, 2026. And you were probably staring down a calendar packed with, cross-departmental strategy meetings, one-on-ones, and just complex financial decisions.
The usual Thursday chaos.
Exactly. So we're looking for the hidden architecture of the day. And our source material for this deep dive is actually a localized astrological forecast. Specifically, it's the Cosmic Compass, the Daily Horoscope published for today.
Right. And the intention here is to apply a very strict, highly rigorous filter to this text. I mean, we have the forecast for all 12 zodiac signs, covering everything from Aries to Pisces.
Right.
But we are stripping away all that generalized advice, and we're focusing exclusively on extracting the actionable career opportunities.
The actual workplace strategies.
Exactly. The workplace strategies and the hidden economic indicators that are kind of embedded within these ancient archetypes.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we really need to address the obvious elephant in the room for the deeply skeptical learner tuning in right now.
Oh, for sure.
You might be rolling your eyes at the idea of using a horoscope for executive level strategy. But consider this, at their absolute core, these astrological signs are simply a codification of fundamental human behaviors.
Yeah, they're archetypes.
Right, archetypes of motivation, of risk tolerance, cognitive bias. So when we take a daily forecast and look at it through the lens of intentional strategic planning, it kind of ceases to be a mystical prediction.
It becomes a mirror.
Yes. A mirror for severe self-reflection. It provides a framework to ask yourself, am I operating with too much aggression today? Is my team lacking a collaborative safety net?
Or am I overlooking a critical detail because my psychological baseline is just rushing toward a conclusion?
Exactly.
Because the utility of this exercise, it's really about empathy and operational awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't just listen for the sign that aligns with your birthday. That's missing the point. You need to absorb the entire landscape.
The whole picture, right?
Yeah, understanding this cosmic weather is about mapping the invisible forces affecting your colleagues, your direct reports, the vendors you're managing.
And that incredibly difficult client you have to pitch to later this afternoon.
Exactly. If the archetype governing a specific segment of the population points towards, say, heightened anxiety or reactive spending today, well, you possess a distinct tactical advantage.
Because you know it's coming.
Right. You can adjust your communication style and your negotiation parameters to either, mitigate their panic or, frankly, leverage their impulsivity.
Wow. So you are essentially observing the psychological chessboard before you make your opening move.
That's exactly it.
So our source material actually provides a macro-level forecast before breaking down the individual signs. There's this overarching special message dedicated to the collective energy of June 5, 2026.
Right, the daily overview.
Yeah. And the text explicitly states that for most signs, the keys to success today are a triad of hard work, patience, and positive thinking.
Okay, yeah.
It also outlines some specific auspicious elements.
Mm-hmm.
The color white, the numbers 5, 6, and 9, and uniquely a lucky direction.
The northeast.
Yeah, referred to in the text as Ishan Kant.
So that initial triad, hard work, patience, and positive thinking, it demands a closer look because it's deceptively simple.
It sounds basic.
It does, because in modern corporate environments, we have heavily over-indexed on the concept of hard work.
Oh, absolutely.
We operate under the assumption that brute force, sending emails at midnight, and maximizing our output will just inevitably bend reality to our will.
Right, the whole grind culture thing.
But the text deliberately shackles hard work to patience. And that combination, to me, suggests a day characterized by deep bureaucratic friction.
Interesting. Because my immediate reaction to that advice is that it sounds like generic grind culture rhetoric,
Mm-hmm.
Just work hard and be positive.
Right.
But you're suggesting this actually points to a systemic bottleneck today.
Yeah, exactly. If we overlay this onto behavioral economics, the text is warning us about the illusion of control.
Oh, I see.
I mean, you might execute a flawless financial proposal this morning, that's the hard work part, but the approval process is going to get caught in a web of compliance checks or like executive indecision.
And that's where the patience becomes a strategic necessity.
You got it. And the positive thinking mentioned here, it's not toxic positivity. It's not walking around with a fake smile.
Right, pretending everything is fine.
Exactly. It represents rigorous emotional regulation. When the immediate material results of your labor don't manifest by noon, the amateur reaction is to panic.
Right. You rewrite the proposal or aggressively email stakeholders for updates, and you just end up alienating them.
Yeah, you end up digging up the seed to see if it's sprouting, and in the process, you kill the root system.
That is a perfect analogy. The professional who relies on emotional regulation, they recognize the delay as a structural reality of the day, not a personal failure. They maintain their strategic composure. They allow the process to unfold without introducing unnecessary kinetic energy that could, destabilize the project.
So it reframes patience from this passive waiting game into an active form of self-control.
Exactly.
Now, I do want to challenge the spatial advice in this text.
Okay.
The source highlights the northeast direction, or Ishan Khan. How does a modern professional, maybe sitting in an open-plan tech office or a standardized cubicle, practically apply a lucky direction?
It sounds a bit out there. It does. Like, we can't realistically ask the facilities department to rotate our desks 45 degrees to secure a promotion. It sounds completely detached from reality.
Well, to understand the utility, we have to trace the concept back to its architectural origins and then kind of secularize it for the modern mind.
Okay, walk me through that.
So Ishan Khan comes from Vastu Shastra, which is an ancient Indian system of architecture. And historically, the northeast sector of a structure was left open and uncluttered.
Like a courtyard.
Something like that, yeah. It was associated with the morning sun, magnetic alignments, and the intake of positive, clarifying energy. The northeast was the space designated for meditation, deep thought, and clarity of vision.
Oh, okay. So the historical context is really about optimizing an environment for peak cognitive function.
Precisely. We are talking about designing an environment that reduces cognitive friction. So in a modern setting, the application is not about structural remodeling.
Right. You're not tearing down walls.
No, it's about utilizing psychological anchoring.
Okay. Let's construct a practical experiment for the listener based on this.
Let's do it.
Suppose you have a highly contentious Zoom call at 2 o'clock, or you're drafting an email that could literally define your quarter.
High stakes.
Right. Before you begin, you pull out the Compass app on your smartphone. You physically orient your chair or even just your laptop screen to face northeast.
I love this.
By engaging in that deliberate physical action, you're creating a neurological trigger.
Yeah.
You're telling your brain, I am now entering a state of absolute clarity and strategic focus.
They're basically transforming a passive superstition into an active ritual of performance enhancement.
Yeah.
I mean, top-tier athletes use physical anchoring all the time.
Like bouncing a tennis ball exactly 3 times before a serve.
Or tapping a specific spot on the doorway before entering a room. It focuses the mind. And you can apply the exact same logic to the numbers 5, 6, and 9 mentioned in the text.
How so?
Well, structure your pitch deck to have exactly 5 core pillars. Use a 6-step implementation plan.
Oh, I see.
You're utilizing the constraints of the text to force a structured, disciplined environment for your own success.
That is fascinating. Okay, so while the macro weather calls for this collective patience and structured clarity, the text pivots sharply when addressing specific archetypes.
It really does.
The source makes it abundantly clear that certain segments of the population are being handed the accelerator pedal today. They are not waiting for bureaucratic processes to clear.
No, they are the ones generating the friction.
Exactly. So let's examine the first group, which operates as the momentum makers of the day, and that's Aries, Leo, and Scorpio.
The energetic signature here is highly aggressive and distinctly kinetic.
Yeah.
These 3 archetypes are operating under a completely different set of roles today compared to the rest of the professional ecosystem.
So looking at Aries, the forecast points to a state of high confidence. The text explicitly predicts they'll receive new responsibilities in the workplace. It mentions sweetness in their personal relationships. But the critical warning lies in the financial sector. The text demands careful thought in financial decisions.
And that juxtaposition is key.
Yeah, because when I see new responsibilities, my immediate cynical thought is that this is a trap.
Oh, 100%.
In a corporate environment, new responsibilities is often just sanitized language for taking on uncompensated labor. So how does an Aries listener leverage this without just becoming the office workhorse?
That instinct is incredibly accurate, and that's exactly why the text juxtaposes the new responsibilities without warning about financial decisions.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, Aries is a cardinal fire sign. Their psychological baseline is pioneering, impulsive, and they're always eager to prove themselves. They thrive on initiation.
Right, they want to start things.
Yes. And today, the text notes their confidence is peaking, which means they are highly susceptible to volunteering for massive undertakings simply for the thrill of the challenge.
They want to be the hero who charges up the hill.
Exactly. The strategic deployment of this archetype requires separating the acquisition of the role from the acceptance of the terms.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Imagine the VP of operations walks into the room and announces a sudden crisis with, like, a legacy software migration and asks who can take the lead.
The Aries should take it.
The Aries, fueled by today's cosmic tailwind, should absolutely raise their hand. They must claim the territory. However, the trap snaps shut if they agree to execute the project using their existing resources and current salary.
Ah, and this is where the careful thought in financial decisions becomes the safety valve.
Precisely. The professional maneuver is to say, I have the vision to solve this migration issue, and I'll take point. Let's schedule 30 minutes this afternoon to reevaluate my departmental budget to support this initiative and, discuss how this expands my current compensation band.
That is so smart.
You leverage the peak confidence to secure the high visibility project, but you engage extreme caution to ensure you're financially capitalized to actually execute it.
Right, because if you rush the financial negotiation today, you basically inherit a failing project with no safety net.
Exactly.
That completely redefines the advice. You're not avoiding the responsibility. You are weaponizing the pause to demand capitalization.
Exactly.
Let's move to Leo.
Okay.
The text here uses very dramatic language. It states that hard work yields good results at the workplace, their health improves, they hold a strong financial position, and most notably, it predicts victory over opponents.
That's a strong phrase.
It is. And the concept of opponents in a modern office feels incredibly volatile. Like, is the text suggesting that a Leo should go looking for a fight in the boardroom today?
I hope not.
Right. Should they be initiating hostile takeovers or engaging in aggressive office politics to secure this victory?
If a Leo interprets opponents as an invitation to engage in interpersonal warfare, they will fundamentally misread the architecture of the day and likely just damage their career.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We have to look at the conditional clause that precedes the victory, which is hard work yields good results.
Okay, so the victory is explicitly tethered to the labor, not the ego.
Exactly. The victory today is purely meritocratic. I mean, a Leo is naturally charismatic, and with their health and financial positions stabilized according to the forecast, their baseline presence is going to be incredibly dominant.
They'll own the room.
They will, but relying solely on that charisma or, engaging in Machiavellian politics will backfire.
So who is the opponent then?
Your opponent today might not even be a human being. Your opponent is the outdated legacy system that's costing the company millions.
Right.
Your opponent is market stagnation. Your opponent is the incredibly tight deadline.
So the strategy for the Leo listener is out-preparing everyone else in the room. You don't win the pitch because you spoke the loudest or because you undermined the rival agency.
Sure.
You win the pitch because your data analysis was impenetrable, your supply chain logistics were flawless, and your presentation was rehearsed to the point of perfection.
The victory belongs to the one who outworks the problem. You let the undeniable quality of your preparation serve as your absolute authority.
That's powerful.
Yeah, you crush the opposition through sheer competence, rendering any political maneuvering by your rivals completely irrelevant.
Okay, the final momentum maker in this group is Scorpio.
Right.
The forecast highlights increased courage. It predicts clear signs of progress in business, mentions support from siblings, and introduces a fascinating phrase, short, profitable journeys.
That's a very specific prediction.
It is. And for the vast majority of our listeners, they are not randomly boarding a private jet for a quick corporate merger on a Thursday afternoon.
Probably not.
So how do we translate a short, profitable journey into actionable advice for, say, a director of marketing or a senior engineer?
We have to elevate the concept of a journey from a purely physical relocation to a lateral systemic maneuver.
What do you mean by that?
Well, in the context of a highly structured corporate hierarchy, employees often operate in deep silos. I mean, engineering rarely talks to marketing, sales rarely talks to product development.
Oh, all the time.
Right. So a journey today is a deliberate excursion out of your established silo.
Okay, so we're talking about cross-functional infiltration.
Precisely. Let's connect that to the increased courage the text mentions. It takes professional courage to step out of your lane and engage with a department where you don't hold intrinsic authority.
That's very true.
A short, profitable journey for an executive might look like an agile, low-risk sprint. It could be launching a micro-initiative that bypasses standard, cumbersome corporate governance.
Or even just on an interpersonal level. It could be taking a 15-minute walk to another floor to ask a targeted question to a data scientist in person, rather than filing a formal IT ticket and waiting 3 weeks.
Yes, exactly that.
That makes perfect sense. The profit comes from the speed and the circumvention of bureaucracy.
Right.
And how does sibling support fit into this? Most professionals aren't working alongside their actual brothers or sisters.
Right. In astrological symbolism, the sibling archetype represents the lateral network.
Oh, interesting.
It represents your peers, your equals, the people who share your rank in the organizational chart.
So not the boss and not the intern.
Exactly. Today is not the day for Scorpio to manage upward and seek validation from the C-suite. Nor is it the day to micromanage their direct reports downward.
Okay.
The progress in business is locked within horizontal collaboration. When you embark on that short, profitable journey across the company, you lean on the peers you find there to facilitate the outcome.
Wow. Okay, so the aggressive momentum of Aries, Leo, and Scorpio generates a massive amount of forward motion, but it also creates chaos in its wake.
It inevitably does.
When Aries initiates a new software migration, or Scorpio launches an agile sprint, they leave behind a trail of administrative debt and systemic stress.
Someone has to clean it up.
Right, and that brings us to our next group. While the fire signs are charging the hill, these three signs are laying the concrete, stabilizing the infrastructure, and playing an incredibly deep, long-term game.
Yeah, we are shifting from the kinetic warriors to the structural architect.
The earth signs.
This is the realm of the earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. They are the strategic builders, and their definition of success today is rooted in consolidation rather than expansion.
Okay, let's examine Taurus. The text provides a very comforting baseline, noting that luck is on their side and family time is highlighted.
Always nice.
Always. But the core operational directives are twofold: pending work completing and the day being favorable for investment.
Right.
My immediate pushback here is that focusing on pending work, which usually means clearing out old emails, filing expense reports, or finalizing compliance documents, it sounds like a trap.
How so?
Doesn't focusing on administrative debt trap a professional in low-level busy work while their peers are out doing deep, high-visibility strategic thinking? Like, how does a Taurus ensure they aren't just rearranging deck chairs on a sinking ship?
That is the perpetual danger of administrative tasks, for sure. But we must understand the psychology of the Taurus archetype and the neurology of the Zeigarnik effect.
The Zeigarnik effect.
Yeah, the Zeigarnik effect dictates that humans remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks far better than completed ones.
Oh, like a song stuck in your head because you didn't hear the end.
Exactly. So for a Taurus, a sign that fundamentally requires stability, predictability, and tangible foundations to operate at peak capacity, a massive backlog of pending work is not just an annoyance.
It's a weight.
It is a profound psychological weight. It consumes massive amounts of subconscious cognitive load.
It acts like background applications draining the battery on your phone. It limits the processing power available for the high-level strategic thinking you mentioned.
Exactly. The cosmic weather today provides a unique window where the friction of completing these mundane tasks is drastically reduced. By clearing that administrative debt, they are performing a hard reset on their executive function.
And this directly connects to the second directive, favorable for investment.
Yes.
Because the text isn't necessarily talking about buying mutual funds or real estate.
No, in the context of career strategy, the most valuable asset you can invest is your future bandwidth.
Wow, okay.
By utilizing today's energy to aggressively clear the pending work, you are buying back your time for the rest of the quarter.
That's a great way to frame it.
Once the desk is completely clear, a Taurus can dedicate the final 2 hours of the day to a true investment.
Like researching a long-term market trend, learning a new software architecture, or developing a skill that will yield compound interest over the next 5 years.
Exactly. You clear the past to fund the future.
That completely elevates the concept of busy work into a strategic maneuver for cognitive dominance. I love that.
It's very powerful.
So moving to Virgo, the source specifically highlights happiness and love and good news from children.
Right.
But the professional core of the text states it's an excellent day for students and competitive examinees.
And this is crucial.
I want to be very careful here, though. The target audience for this deep dive is largely composed of seasoned professionals, executives, and managers. If they hear students, they might tune out, assuming this only applies to, like, college sophomores studying for midterms.
Which would be a massive strategic error on their part. We have to look at the ruling planet of Virgo, which is Mercury.
Okay.
Mercury governs intellect, communication, the categorization of data, and the speed of neural processing. When the text highlights success for students, it is signaling that the Virgo archetype currently possesses peak cognitive absorption.
Ah, I get it.
Their mental RAM has effectively been doubled for the next 24 hours.
So to translate that into an executive context, being a student means engaging in high-level professional development.
A true professional remains a student of their industry permanently.
Right.
If you're a Virgo, today is the day you tackle the most intellectually dense, grueling material on your desk. Have you been putting off reading that 100-page white paper on the new European data privacy regulations because it's too dry?
Read it today.
Read it today. Your brain will synthesize legal jargon effortlessly. Do you need to master the back-end architecture of a new generative AI tool the company just purchased? Dive into the documentation today.
So it's about exploiting a temporary window of accelerated learning.
Exactly.
And what about the good news from children? How does a childless manager extract value from that line?
Metaphorically, your children are your brain children.
Oh, that makes sense.
They are the initiatives you birthed, the marketing campaigns you nurtured from conception, the junior employees you've been mentoring.
Right.
The good news predicted today likely relates to a long-term project finally showing a positive return on investment, or, a protege securing a major win for the department.
Okay, the final architect in this group is Capricorn.
Yes, Capricorn.
The text for Capricorn is arguably one of the most potent of the day. It highlights opportunities for profit in job and business. But the mechanism for that profit is derived from two specific statements,
Which are?
increased attraction and influence, and being favorable for important decisions.
Yes.
In a corporate hierarchy, genuine influence is a literal superpower. So how does a Capricorn listener actively weaponize this increased attraction today? Because you absolutely cannot afford to waste a day where people are naturally drawn to your authority.
You weaponize it by intentionally placing yourself in the path of the most severe friction.
Okay, what does that look like?
Well, the Capricorn archetype is the mountain goat. They are pragmatic, incredibly cautious, and they prefer to map out every single step up the cliff face before they begin the climb.
Very methodical.
Very. Their primary vulnerability is analysis paralysis. They will delay a critical decision until they possess 100% of the data.
Which, in the modern macroeconomic climate, you will literally never get.
Never.
You have to make the call with 70% of the data and rely on intuition for the rest.
And that is exactly what the universe is demanding of Capricorn today. The text says the day is favorable for important decisions. Your natural caution has served its purpose. You've analyzed the risk. Now you must act. The increased attraction and influence mentioned is the halo effect.
Ah, the halo effect.
Today, when you speak in a boardroom, your colleagues, stakeholders, and even your superiors are neurologically primed to trust your judgment. They are magnetically drawn to your inherent authority.
So if you've been sitting on a controversial restructuring plan because you were afraid of the political fallout,
today is the day you submit the proposal.
you leverage the fact that people are inclined to follow your lead today.
Yes, you make the hard call, you break the gridlock, and that decisive action is the exact mechanism that unlocks the profit in job and business promised at the end of the forecast.
You profit by being the unshakable anchor in a sea of corporate indecision.
Exactly.
So the momentum makers created the initial push. The strategic builders stabilized the infrastructure. But a business cannot achieve massive exponential scale purely through individual effort or administrative order. You eventually hit a ceiling where the mechanics of your success become entirely dependent on how you interact with the surrounding human capital.
Yeah, we are transitioning away from individual execution and moving into the realm of complex interpersonal dynamics.
The people part.
The people part. This brings us to the collaborators and communicators, Cancer, Gemini, and Libra.
Okay.
For these three signs, the tactical victories today are found almost exclusively in the spaces between people.
Let's begin with Cancer. The forecast predicts positive changes in their personal love life and highlights support from friends.
Nice to have.
Always. But the absolute core of the career strategy is summarized in one phrase: profit and partnership work, which leads directly to successful new plans.
Right.
To put this in startup terminology, today is not a solo founder day for a Cancer, it is a co-founder day.
That is an excellent framework. The Cancer archetype is deeply tied to emotional intuition, the creation of safe harbors, and the concept of family, which, in a corporate setting, translates to deep team cohesion.
So working closely together.
Right. When a Cancer tries to isolate themselves, lock the office door, and hero their way through a complex problem alone, they cut themselves off from their primary source of strategic power.
The text explicitly places the profit inside the partnership. So how does a listener operationalize that mandate immediately?
If you're a Cancer, you must audit your calendar the moment you sit at your desk.
Okay.
If you have a 3-hour block scheduled for solo data analysis or isolated copywriting, you need to fracture that isolation. You must find a trusted colleague that's the friend support mentioned and transform that block into a collaborative working session.
But let's dig deeper into the mechanics of why that works, because it's not just about having someone to talk to. We're talking about the mechanics of psychological safety in co-creation.
Yes, absolutely. A Cancer possesses incredible intuition about market trends and human behavior, but they are often risk-averse when standing alone.
Right. The fear of failure is strong.
By bringing a co-founder into the process today, they distribute the psychological risk. This creates an environment of profound psychological safety.
And that's where the magic happens.
It is within that safety that the successful new plans emerge. The synergy of two minds working without the fear of isolated failure is what generates the innovative breakthrough.
So if you manage a team,
this is the day to abandon the top-down directive. Do not dictate the quarterly strategy. Co-create it with your direct reports.
the collaborative friction produces the spark. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's pivot to Gemini, because this is where the text introduces a severe internal contradiction.
It really does.
Gemini is traditionally an air sign characterized by rapid data exchange, multitasking, and extreme adaptability. They are the professionals with 20 browser tabs open, managing 3 different Slack conversations while presenting on a Zoom call.
The quintessential multitaskers.
Right. Yet the text today demands patience in job and business. It commands them to control expenses and highlights taking care of their health alongside support from a spouse. Why is the forecast throwing a massive yellow caution flag at the fastest moving sign in the Zodiac?
Because today, their speed is their greatest liability.
Oh, wow.
When we look at corporate systems, injecting capital or rapid movement into a broken supply chain does not fix the problem. It actually accelerates the system failure.
That makes total sense.
The Gemini archetype today is facing a scenario where their natural instinct to react quickly will cause critical damage.
Let's play out a scenario. A Gemini marketing director logs on at 8:00 a.m. and sees that their biggest competitor just launched a massive, unexpected advertising campaign.
Okay, so the standard Gemini reaction is instantaneous hyperarousal.
Right.
They'll immediately want to pivot their entire strategy, draw up a counter campaign by 10:00 a.m., and demand an emergency budget allocation from the CFO to launch retaliation by Friday.
They want to move fast and break things.
But the text explicitly says, control expenses, work with patience.
Exactly. The universe is ordering a hard stop.
Yes. Do not deploy capital. Do not authorize that emergency departmental purchase. Today is about gathering intelligence, not executing maneuvers.
Because if they rush it,
If the Gemini director reacts impulsively, they will likely burn through their quarterly budget on a poorly researched countermeasure, and the stress of the frantic pivot will compromise their health.
which the text specifically warns against.
Exactly.
So the strategy is observation over action. You watch the competitor's campaign unfold. You gather the analytics. You let the system stabilize before you introduce new variables.
Right.
And you rely on your foundational support, your spouse, your health routines to ground you while you endure the uncomfortable sensation of not moving.
It requires immense discipline for a Gemini to simply watch the board without moving a piece. But today, Restraint is the only way to protect the company's resources.
That leads perfectly into Libra.
Yes, Libra.
The forecast for Libra mentions a focus on family, support from the mother, and places a massive emphasis on mental peace.
Right.
But the financial directive is highly specific. Profit in property matters. Now, if we look at the demographics of our audience, the vast majority are not real estate developers flipping commercial properties or zoning land today.
Definitely not.
So how does a creative director or a senior software engineer translate property matters into a high-level career advantage?
We must expand the definition of property beyond physical acreage. In the modern knowledge economy, the most valuable property a company owns is rarely physical.
It's intellectual.
It is intellectual. Property is your company's proprietary algorithm. It's the brand guidelines, the client database, the patents, the digital real estate.
Okay, so we're talking about managing and leveraging intellectual property.
Yes. For a Libra, a sign inherently driven by balance, diplomacy, and the pursuit of fairness, dealing with property matters today could involve negotiating the complex terms of a new licensing agreement.
Right.
It could mean auditing the digital assets of your creative team to ensure they're properly secured and monetized. Even if we look at physical resources within an office, it could involve negotiating for more server space or securing the capital to upgrade your department's hardware.
You're acting as the steward of the company's vital assets.
Exactly.
And how does that connect to the specific psychological state of mental peace? Because negotiations over resources, especially intellectual property or departmental budgets, are notoriously hostile. They are high-stress environments.
That mental peace is the ultimate tactical advantage.
How so?
Well, when most people enter negotiation for scarce resources, they operate from a state of anxiety or desperation. They project need.
You can always smell desperation in a room.
Right. The Libra today enters that exact same high-stakes negotiation, possessing unshakable inner calm. They are emotionally detached from the friction of the room.
The calmest person at the negotiation table is invariably the most dangerous person at the table.
Exactly. Because they are not blinded by ego or stress, they can see the underlying variables that everyone else is missing.
They see the whole board.
They do. They can propose the elegant compromise that secures the resources, maintains the relationship, and directly results in the profit predicted by the text. Their mental peace is the weapon that secures the property.
That is brilliant. Okay, so we've analyzed the momentum makers, the structural builders, and the collaborative communicators.
And now,
We now arrive at the final 3 signs of the Zodiac. Examining the text for these archetypes, the horizon expands dramatically. We're no longer dealing with granular tasks or daily resource management.
right.
These 3 signs are tasked with visionary expansion, deep philosophical alignment, and managing the absolute pinnacle of cosmic favor.
We have entered the realm of the visionaries, Sagittarius, Aquarius, and Pisces.
Big thinkers.
The tactical advice here shifts from the immediate mechanics of the workplace to long-term wealth generation and the preservation of systemic integrity.
Okay, let's dive straight into the contradiction presented to Sagittarius.
This one is fascinating.
The forecast is incredibly enticing on the surface. It predicts financial success, family peace, and explicitly states that new sources of income can be created.
Sounds great. Right.
Sounds amazing. However, the mechanism to achieve this wealth is locked behind a very sharp, almost severe warning: restrained speech. Now, Sagittarius is governed by Jupiter. They are natural philosophers, teachers, and optimists who process the world externally. They love to talk.
They really do.
So why is the text telling the most vocal sign to shut their mouth in order to create wealth?
It is the most fascinating behavioral puzzle in the entire document. The potential for massive financial expansion, negotiating a new revenue stream, finalizing a lucrative side hustle, or securing a major promotion is structurally locked in for today.
The opportunity's there.
The opportunity is present. But the psychological barrier to entry is the Sagittarius' own neurology.
Let's frame this within the behavioral economics of a high-stakes negotiation.
Perfect. Imagine the Sagittarius listener is in a final round salary negotiation with a prospective employer. The Sagittarius states their number. It's a bold, aggressive figure.
Okay.
The hiring manager pauses, looks down at the paper, and says nothing. 5 seconds of dead air fill the room.
Human neurology despises silence in a social setting. It registers as a literal threat.
Yeah.
And for a Sagittarius, that silence is agonizing.
Exactly.
Their immediate instinct is to fill the void, to start justifying the number, to backtrack and say, Of course, I'm flexible depending on the equity package.
The moment they open their mouth to fill that silence, they hemorrhage leverage.
They start negotiating against themselves.
They do. The cosmic forecast is explicitly warning them against this specific behavioral trap. Restrained speech. You must embrace the immense, uncomfortable power of the pause.
So what's the play?
State your strategic position, outline the terms of the new revenue stream, and then close your mouth. Let the unbearable weight of the silence do the heavy lifting. The restraint, the literal act of suppressing your nature to over-explain, is the mechanism that forces the other party to concede, thereby unlocking the financial success.
Silence as an offensive tool for income generation. It is brilliant.
It really is.
Moving to Aquarius, the text outlines a day requiring deep systemic management. It commands them to work with patience, warns that unnecessary expenses may rise, reminds them to monitor their health, and highlights a sudden interest in spiritual activities.
Right.
You have to translate this carefully. If I am an Aquarius executive managing a global supply chain, how on earth does spirituality fit into my workflow? I can't exactly halt a logistics meeting to burn sage or lead a chanting circle in the boardroom.
Definitely do not do that.
Right. It sounds patronizing if interpreted literally.
Which is why a literal interpretation is strategically useless. In the context of high-level corporate dynamics, spiritual activities points toward a macroecological view of the organization.
Okay, unpack that.
It is the practice of systems thinking. Aquarius is an air sign, deeply intellectual, and naturally focused on complex systems and humanity at large. When an Aquarius experiences extreme frustration, it is almost always because human beings within the system are acting illogically or inefficiently.
And that frustration leads to the unnecessary expenses mentioned in the text.
Exactly. Let's construct the scenario.
Let's hear it.
An Aquarius project manager discovers that a critical vendor has completely botched a deliverable, jeopardizing a $1 million launch.
Nightmare scenario.
The logical, albeit impatient reaction is to fire the vendor immediately, sever the contract, and rush hire a replacement firm at triple the premium rate to hit the deadline.
There's this spike in unnecessary expenses.
Yeah.
Driven purely by the impatience the text warned against.
Now, apply the spiritual activity, which in this context means adopting an elevated, detached, systems-level consciousness.
Okay.
The Aquarius takes a mandatory 5-minute pause. They regulate their nervous system. They view the failure not as a personal insult, but as a glitch in the macroecology of the project.
Right.
They realize that despite the error, working with the flawed vendor to urgently patch the mistake is ultimately faster and vastly cheaper than the catastrophic disruption of onboarding a new vendor midstream.
So the spiritual detachment, the mindfulness, is quite literally a severe cost-saving measure. It prevents the reactive, ego-driven destruction of capital.
Emotional regulation preserves operational efficiency.
Incredible. And that brings us to the final sign of the Zodiac, Pisces.
The big one today.
Based on a close reading of this text, Pisces is experiencing an anomalous level of cosmic favor today. It's a complete structural anomaly.
It is the absolute apex of the day's energetic potential.
The text reads, "Especially auspicious day. It predicts progress in career A&D business. It highlights closeness in love, the arrival of good news, and direct financial profit."
The universe is handing them the keys to the kingdom.
But there is a very specific, culturally deep instruction attached to the end of this windfall. Worship of Lord Vishnu is beneficial. For the listener who is not steeped in Hindu theology, we must unpack the archetype of Lord Vishnu to understand how a Pisces is supposed to handle this overwhelming wave of success.
To extract the strategic value, we really have to look at the Hindu Trinity. You have Brahma, who represents creation and the genesis of ideas.
Yep.
You have Shiva, who represents destruction, transformation, and clearing the old. And then you have Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is the preserver.
The preserver.
He represents sustenance, protection, the maintenance of the grand cosmic order, and acting with profound ethical responsibility.
The preserver archetype.
Mm-hmm.
How does that map onto a professional experiencing massive success?
Well, when an executive experiences a especially auspicious day, when they close the massive deal, receive the promotion, and watch their stock options surge all at once, the default human reaction is ego inflation.
Oh, absolutely.
The shadow side of massive success is arrogance. The executive might feel invincible and decide to immediately take a reckless, high-leverage risk, or they might become dismissive of the junior team members who helped them achieve the win. They shift from success to hubris.
They catch the I cannot lose virus.
Exactly. The directive to align with the preserver archetype is a mandate for extreme stewardship.
Stewardship.
It means that in the face of overwhelming victory, your primary duty is to stabilize and protect the ecosystem that allowed you to win.
So practically speaking, the Pisces listener who just closed the biggest account of their career doesn't go out and immediately boast, nor do they aggressively try to poach another client from a rival firm while they are hot.
No. They pivot instantly to preservation. They ensure the onboarding documentation for the new client is flawless. They personally walk down to the administrative assistant's desk to thank them for proofreading the contracts at midnight.
They fortify the foundation.
They approach their sudden wealth and status with deep gratitude and a profound sense of responsibility to the overarching order of their organization.
It's not simply about acquiring the victory. It's about demonstrating the grace and the structural integrity required to hold the victory without letting it corrupt the system.
True, sustainable leadership demands the energy of the preserver. Without it, massive success is just a destructive flash flood.
Stepping back and viewing this entirely, the complexity of what we've just analyzed is staggering.
It really is.
We began with a few lines of translated astrological text, and by applying a rigorous strategic filter, we have mapped out a comprehensive matrix of modern corporate behavior.
We have essentially decoded the entire spectrum of human operational friction and momentum.
We tracked the aggressive initiative of Aries demanding capitalization for their labor. We saw the structural necessity of Taurus utilizing the Zygarnik effect to buy back their cognitive bandwidth.
Why?
We explored the deep psychological safety required for Cancer's collaborative profit, the defensive supply chain mechanics of Gemini, the behavioral economics of Sagittarius weaponizing silence, and finally, the profound executive stewardship required of Pisces in the face of massive success.
And the connective tissue binding all 12 of these distinct strategies together is the concept we established at the very beginning, intentionality.
Yes, intentionality. The macro forecast dictated that hard work must be paired with the emotional regulation of patience and positive thinking. Whether you are anchoring yourself to the northeast to force cognitive clarity, or suppressing your instinct to speak during a negotiation, you're refusing to be a passive victim of the day's chaos.
You're orchestrating the variables.
Exactly. As you look back at your packed calendar today, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over before you step into your first meeting.
Lay it on us.
We just spent an hour detailing how 12 different personality archetypes are uniquely primed to succeed based on their specific cosmic alignment today. We gave each sign a distinct, actionable strategy. But here's where we completely transcend the text.
Okay.
What if you realize that you are not confined to a single archetype? What if all 12 of these strategic tools are available to you in your arsenal right now?
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
What if you actively chose to adopt the systemic courage of a Scorpio when you need to bypass a bureaucratic roadblock this morning? What if you consciously borrowed the unshakable, detached mental peace of a Libra when you walk into a hostile budget negotiation this afternoon?
Right.
What if you intentionally applied the profound stewardship of a Pisces when you manage your team's next major victory, regardless of what month you were born in?
The source material provides the map, and it reveals the invisible forces acting upon the board.
But you are the one moving the pieces. What if you are the master of your own cosmic compass? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take these frameworks, go tackle that calendar, anchor your clarity, and we will catch you next time.